Okay, so welcome guys to our 12th and final meeting of Carroll PMC. Today we have some final thoughts for you, some final pretty important announcements about the club and where we're headed. And in addition, we have an excellent guest speaker for you guys as well. So today's agenda is as follows. We're going to begin with some opening messages and then quite a few more in which we'll announce some pretty important announcements we want you guys to be aware of, involving junior officer positions, winter break resources, ideas for next semester, and then also this end of semester club survey we put up for you guys. Then we're going to introduce you guys to Josh, who is a senior here at Carroll, who just got accepted to a medical school. He's a great guy. He has a really inspiring story. We thought it'd be a good way to sort of cap off our semester of meetings. And then we'll just finish up with any questions for him and also just some final messages from us as well.
Yeah, and so with that, our opening message, we always want to inform, excite, empower, and involve each and every one of you guys. And how we would inform you, I guess the purpose of this meeting is to really get insight from a non-traditional student who has an incredible story. And then what's exciting about this is it'll give us some inspiration to really continue on in that pre-med track with this drive and make the most of our experiences during this break. And empowering us and involving all of you guys in that we always invite you to ask questions and ideas for future meetings. So for the COVID community update, there's been a total increase in cases compared to the recent weeks, with numbers jumping from 35,222 to 40,118 in Montana. County numbers increased by 56 from the last week. Total deaths, unfortunately, are increased by 64 from the last week in Montana, with one being reported from Lewis and Clark County.
Were you ready for me to switch that, Roman? Or sorry, Michael, wrong person.
No, yeah, you're all good, Kayla.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on to the junior officer position. So the deadline to submit your application is midnight tonight. If you're gonna have an issue with that, please email me or the PMC email and we can definitely work something out. And then basically our plan is to do some interviews over winter break. If you're selected for an interview, I will email you and let you know, and we'll set up a time that works for people to do something over Zoom, just short, quick little interviews. Before we move on, does anyone have any questions about junior officer positions? Okay, I'm gonna take that as a no.
All right, so I'm going to speak to you guys about some of the winter break resources we're going to have available for you. Obviously, all of the Moodle page links that are on the Carroll or the Med 100 Moodle page, they're going to be up there, and we're going to be adding to them throughout the winter break. So please regularly check back. Every time I get an email about another pre-medical program or opportunity or shadowing opportunity or whatever, whether it's in the Helena community or just anywhere, I put it up there. So I am regularly updating it at least twice a week. So please continue to check that. The Med 100 page, I talk to people, they're going to have that page accessible, at least it should be, to you guys all through the winter break and spring semester. It's always going to be up there. So those will always be resources up there for you guys. And if they're really important resources, I'll probably email all of you guys just to let you know. So check your email still. I recommend rewatching the Carroll PMC YouTube video playlist. I realize I have not posted a few of the last couple, actually a lot of the last couple meetings. It takes quite a while to cut them down for some reason because they're such a big size, such a big file size. So I haven't gotten around to putting that time into doing so. However, I'll have that up in the next week or so. Also, we're planning to put together this Carroll PMC YouTube podcast. So the way that this is going to work for the winter break is that we have a lot of guest speakers lined up. So what I'm planning so far is every Thursday, probably from 7 to 8 p.m., I'm going to have somewhat of a coffee shop conversation with some of those guest speakers via Zoom. And so we'll sit down, I think, for 40 minutes before the Zoom will time out on my end, and just speak about different things. And we have multiple guest speakers from a variety of different backgrounds that we'll have on. And I think that's what we'll do to sort of continue this, so that it's available to you guys. You can send in questions if you want, and then I'll reserve some time towards the end to send some of those questions or ask some of those questions to that person, and just to give you guys a little something in case you want any of those resources. And those will always be recorded then and put on YouTube for your viewing entertainment as well. And lastly, while all the other club officials are hunkered down in their basements with MCAT textbooks this winter break, I fortunately don't have to do that since I got mine out of the way last summer. So I'm offering some of my time for advising office hours, and anything really you want to talk about, whether it's specific to you and your pre-med path, certain questions that you have about some of Carroll resources, certain resources in the community or opportunities that may be developing, questions about what I went through in particular in my experiences, or honestly just like bitch sessions, like vent sessions. It's completely fine. I'm always good to talk about medicine and bitch. Like I love doing that. So if you want to do that, sign up for one of the half-hour office hour slots that I have. You can do so by, I posted a picture on the PowerPoint. It's just on the Med 100 Moodle page, which is again going to be available to you all throughout winter break and spring semester. You can sign up for one of those, and just we'll do it over Zoom, and whatever you guys want, I'm here. So I just want that to be available, and so I figured I'd announce that. Okay. Again, ideas for next semester. Here are a few that we have lined up written on the screen. I'm not going to read them all through. We also have a few future guest speakers that some of them will come on the podcast that we'll have, but also we want your guys' input. So if you have any ideas, if you have any contacts, even if you've already spoken to me about those contacts, please resend them to me, remind me. I'm creating a list currently. And yeah, let us know who you want to hear from, what professionals you want to hear from, because we want to make this attuned to you as much as possible. I think that sort of makes up for it. If we're not in person, at least we can personalize our meetings as much as we can to really help you guys get the most out of these sessions. You're up, Roman. You're up, my man.
Sorry about that. My mic wasn't on. So as we move out of the academic year, academic semester, and kind of transition into a period of rest, recuperation, and for many of us, probably when we're going to get in our volunteer and work and clinical experiences, we wanted to submit a survey to all of you about how we can improve. I mean, Andrew started something novel here, breaking away from the AMSA. And so be honest, tell us, what did you like? What did you not like about our meetings? What did you not like about our officers, about how we met or what we talked about? And especially, we want this to be a community. We want this to be an ongoing conversation, and where we're all helping to push each other forward and help each other get farther along. So share your ideas for the next semester. Tell us what you'd like to be covered at. Our officers have an amazing amount of contacts, especially since Andrew's working as an EMT, especially Kayla working in the hospital and working very closely with public health officials. After the meeting is over, Andrew will be sending out a link that is pictured below for you to fill out the survey. And I really ask that you all give 5-10 minutes to the survey so that we can really improve this experience for you all.
Yes, and without further ado, we're going to get to our guest speaker who's just entered the room. Josh, welcome to Carroll PMC. We appreciate you being here.
All right, thank you. So I just wanted to share some of my information you know, it always opens you up to a certain amount of ridicule when you share this kind of thing, but I just thought it might be helpful for some of you. This is a little bit about me from Helena. I didn't go to high school, so I didn't have any training in algebra or the sciences. It was a real struggle learning how to learn in the beginning process. I did pretty decent on the ACT because I thought it was fairly common sense. My GPA's been okay. The MCAT score, I anticipated that I would be about a 507, and I was normally scoring about a 128 to 129 on all my practice tests for the bio section. And full disclosure, I actually have clinical OCD, and I lost track. It's fine as long as I am aware of it, but I lost track of myself, and I got in sort of a trance on the bio section, and I spent 20 minutes on the first passage. And when I realized what I had done, I had to rush through the rest of it, couldn't really recover. And so I almost retook the MCAT, but talking with Dr. Gretsch, he felt that my resume was probably good enough, and the semester was starting, and so I didn't want to compound the stresses. And so that's really, I think, a good segue into what I wanted to talk to you about today is I just wanted to share with you the things that I think were really beneficial for me getting accepted to medical school. So you can go to the next slide. So the question on this slide was how did it all start? When I was young, I had an insatiable quest for meaning. I went to biblical seminary to try and answer big questions for life. Ended up starting my own business, worked in retail sales for 13 years, and it was successful. We had a house at the end of the cul-de-sac and toys, and I had a family. But my wife had 3 miscarriages in a row, and that started an existential crisis, so it was an abolition of my faith, and I felt trapped. I just needed to break out of this rut that I was in. And I sold the business to my manager for kind of a fire sale price. Became a truck driver for 5 years, which was a walkabout for me. It was 5 years to just figure out who I was and what the world was, and listen to a ton of audiobooks. 4 years into it, I realized that most of the books I was listening to, a lot of them were medical books. One of them called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. It's a 23-hour long book on glucocorticoids, and I'd listened to it 3 times, and which is super geeky. I get it, but I thought, well, man, if I do this for fun, maybe I could do it for a job. And we had some tough experiences with doctors that, compared to my standard of retail sales and what I expected from my employees and how I conducted sales transactions at the counter, they were just, the employees would have been reprimanded or fired for the type of performances that I had seen in the medical field. And I thought, well, I'm certain if I'm smart enough, which is a huge unknown because I was untested, that I could be a decent doctor, right? So that's the short story. I called Carroll and I said, I'm thinking about doing this and it's a stupid idea and I need to talk to someone. And so they directed me to Dr. Gretsch, and I went up and I told him everything. And I said, Dr. Gretsch, I don't know what the square root is for on my calculator. Like, I know nothing about science or math. So just tell me I can't do this and then I can get on with my life. And he didn't say anything, and we talked for about another half hour. And he goes, no, I think you can do it. And so he invited me to a pre-med meeting that they had Michael Riggin coming in. He's retired now, but he worked for Pacific Northwest University as a recruiter. And his presentation was analogous to Moses and the burning bush for me. It was a big moment because everything he said fit with everything I knew and had learned about me and what I needed to reach self-actualization. I needed something that would cause me to carry a maximal load that was meaningful, right? And so I decided right then, this is what I got to do. I'm going to be a DO and I'm going to go to Pacific Northwest University. I never even considered MD, not for a second. To be sure of this, I went to, this is a program I would recommend to you guys. It costs $15. It's $14.99. It's called a Future Authoring Program by Jordan B. Peterson. And it's a series of questions that him and a bunch of other clinical psychologists put together. And it asks you to envision your life 3 to 5 years from now. And by the time you get done filling this out, any questions that you have about your future, you will now understand something about you that you don't before. I recommended it to a Carroll student a few years ago, and she came back up to me the next day crying because it was such a useful tool for her. It opened a door that was closed in her mind. So anyway, the Future Authoring Program and Michael Riggin and Dr. Gretsch, those are what really, I think, reduced that. They were catalysts. They reduced that activation energy for me to start this process. So yeah, so am I smart enough? I really didn't think so. Not until I passed OChem. When I passed OChem, spatially I do well. So I got an A in labs and lectures for both of those. And then I started to feel like maybe I could do this. It just wasn't known before that. It was an all-in commitment for sure. I barely stayed above water in Gen Chem. I don't know how many freshmen are here that are pre-meds, but I've seen a lot of people who started out as pre-meds and then they fall out and they do something, which is fine to do something else, but you really have to decide that this is worth the sacrifice. And that's where that Future Authoring Program would be useful to you, because it's not an easy question to ask, to answer. And in all fairness, I don't know how you answer that under the age of 30. I don't know how you do it, because I was 30 when I 2032 when I sold the business, and it took me 5 years of self-exploration behind the windshield of a truck every day to figure out who I was and what was right for me. So I would really encourage you to check out that program if there's any doubt in your mind, or if you sense, or even if you sense that there's a lack of focus and commitment to the process, right? It might just help sharpen your direction. The relative poverty for my family has been really challenging. My wife, I didn't ask permission for this. I just did it, and it was hard for her. She had the house of her dreams, and I moved her into a trailer, and we're in extreme poverty, and she has to watch her children grow up in extreme poverty. So not a nice thing to do to your wife, for sure. When I got accepted to ICOM, I would say she's probably more excited about it than me, because there's finally a light at the end of the tunnel. That moment for us felt like we had just gone over Donner Pass. Like the journey is still long to the coast where we're going, but at least we're not going to die on that hill, was sort of what that felt like for us. So in your aim to get into medical school, I just want to emphasize something you've probably already heard, and I know Dr. Gretsch hit it hard. And I believed him, but not as much as I should have. There's so much more to it than your GPA and your MCAT, and my age speaks to that. There's not really a great way that you guys can correct that. In fact, one of the things I wanted to say is that if you're a student who's struggling with a GPA, maybe you're under that 3.5, and maybe on top of it you get an MCAT like I did, and maybe that's the best you can do. It doesn't mean it's the end of the road. I know you can get in, but you might just have to adjust your trajectory, knowing that maybe it means you're going to have to take a few gap years and do something that helps that resume. I don't know if that's Peace Corps or whatever, and that's fine. It's just, for you, that's part of the cost. And either it's worth it or it's not. One of the things I like that Jordan Peterson says is, you pay a price for everything you do, and you pay a price for everything you don't do. You don't get to not pay the price. You only get to choose which price you're going to pay, and that's it. And I think that's spot on. And so, you know, if you want to be a doctor, I would, if I were talking to a younger version of myself, and I said, look, you're going to, because a younger version of myself would not have been as disciplined as I am. I know that's true. I'm marveled at how disciplined some of my classmates are at 21. It's a miracle. But I would have told my younger self, look, you're going to struggle with several things. I would have had a low GPA. I would have struggled with the MCAT because I'm not a good test taker. I didn't get a lot of practice at that younger. And so I would have told myself as a younger man, plan on taking more than one gap year to make yourself a better candidate. And that's the price that I would have had to pay as a younger person, just knowing myself and who I was as a younger person. So just to encourage you that maybe that's something to consider. You can go to the next slide. So yeah, meaning and self-actualization and carrying a maximal load. That's why those are the ups. I wanted to talk a little bit about how to make yourself a better candidate. I talked to Dr. Gretsch about this several times because I wanted to be a scribe. I was a scribe for a few weeks. The scheduling didn't work out good for me. The person in charge at the time, we had some disagreements that I hadn't agreed to when I started, and they said I had to work 2 nights a week, night shifts, while I was taking OChem. And I hadn't agreed to that either. They changed the deal. So I didn't stay at doing that, but I became a CNA, which is brutal work. I would have needed probably therapy if I had kept doing it much longer. Just heartbreaking stories that I didn't like the work. When anyone asked me if I liked the work, my response was, no, I like who it's making me become. I like the man it's turning me into. That's what I like about it. And I can tell you that scribe is cool. Like, you learn a lot of really cool verbiage and skills to type fast, and you get to see a lot of neat things and learn medication. I get all that, and I think that's very useful as a doctor. But I do not. I'm with Dr. Gretchen. He would not say it this directly, but this was the implication. I don't think it's as valuable on a application as direct patient contact, because you learn bedside manners in a way as a CNA that you don't as a scribe. So both would be great. Both would be the perfect world, right? But that's an awful lot of hours. The stories I got from being a CNA, and I know you can get good stories as a scribe too, but the stories I got of direct patient contact, holding the hand of a friend that I had made that was dying, are stories that carried substantial weight in my personal experiences. So there's a plug for getting your hands dirty. Yeah, you can go to the next one. I applied to 17 schools with a primary application, but ICOM's interview, I got an interview invite 8 days after I sent in the secondary. And they were early. They were one of the first secondary opportunities I had, secondary applications. And then they wanted to interview me the next week. So it was September 4th or September 8th, I got accepted. It was really quick. And as soon as I got accepted, I didn't send secondaries to any other schools that were below number 5 on the list, because it's expensive. So primary applications cost about $1,100 for DO and MD. And then secondaries are expensive too. I almost spent $1,000 on secondaries, just the 7 that I sent in. So yeah, so I have an interview scheduled for January 11th with WWAMI. That's my first choice. I've been accepted to ICOM. PMW is on December 2nd. That's the school that I originally had decided to go to. Before I took my ACT, I went out there to a prospective students day just to see that too, and talk to financial aid to see could I even afford this with 3 children and a wife? I didn't know if I could make this work at all. Des Moines, they gave me an invitation to interview, and they've had a very aggressive response to COVID. All their classes went online, and their anatomy lab is online. And so I said, no, thanks. I'm not going to pay $400,000 for an online education. You can keep it. Besides, I'd rather be in Boise over Des Moines. So right now I'm considering military options, which are amazing. So the difference, depending on the school, I will be potentially in about $600,000 in debt when you take, so I'll owe $70,000 from Carroll. I've had great scholarships. And you put that in an amortization schedule over medical school and residency, and then you see how much you owe from Carroll plus how much you owe from medical school with the amortization schedule of the first year and the second and the third, and that all adds up. So about $600,000 I'll owe by the time I'm done with residency. And if I go military, I don't owe any. Plus signing bonuses, it ends up being about a $1.2 million swing. Hard to say no to for 4 years of service. And not sure how it's going to work out. I don't know if I'll get accepted, but I'm gonna take a hard look at it. Yeah. Next slide. So there's the recommendations. I gave you a link to that self-authoring program. You would pick the future authoring program for $15 if you wanted to do it. For the application, I spent a lot of time, way more time than any of my classmates, writing my personal statement and personal experiences. And I hired Dr. Wendy Cheek to go over them. What I had written was good. It was pretty good. And what she made it, it was like I had hired, who did I say it was? It was like, that doesn't matter. He wrote Hills with White Elephants, the famous author that lived, European author, Hemingway. It was like hiring Hemingway to edit my work. That's really what it felt like. The suggestions she came back with were shocking, shockingly good. And how she tied my personal experiences so that there was this really cohesive thread with no overlap. And then the phrasing that she suggested on statements that I made was, it went from good to, I'm just telling you right now, it's one of the best applications any of the medical departments have seen from a personal experiences and personal statement standpoint. Now, it was expensive. It was like $700 I paid for it, and she gave me a deal. But here's a little background on her. She mostly helps students that are in medical school applying to residencies. Those are her big customers. She rarely helps people going from undergraduate to medical school because we don't think it's worth it. And we think we can do a fine job. But once we all grow up a little bit and we get to medical school and we see the competition we have for the residency we want, now we have to up our game. So when I found that out, I thought, well, heck, maybe I should just do it now. And it was worth every penny. And I don't have money. I just figured it out. You can take that, do with that what you want. Yeah, get direct patient contact, engage your professors and work on social competence. I would say that my interview went really good with ICOM, and I think my interview is probably going to go really good with anyone else, because I'm a little odd in the social interaction thing. I'm very social. I'll say hi to anybody pretty regularly and just engage in conversations. And I think that's a healthy skill to develop. And I've seen so many of my classmates just be awkward. They don't talk to the professors. They don't talk to their classmates. They're head down. And I have some friends that are wicked smart, and their GPA and MCAT is stunningly good. But the interview's going to be harder for them than it is for someone who regularly engages people. So it's a skill that you just develop, and I would just encourage you to be more engaged with your professors. The second reason I would suggest that is because it's going to help on your letters of recommendation. I also know classmates who had a hard time, or they got a little bit of a lecture when they went and talked to the professor. Hey, can you write me a letter of recommendation? Like, well, I could, but you sat in the back of the class and you never said anything. So what am I going to say? So don't make that mistake. Just be friendly. Your professors want to know you and want to talk to you. Yeah, I've established relationships with the medical school admissions departments. I have called and talked to multiple times every school I sent a secondary into. Fun thing, a lot of the schools love to talk to you, mostly the DO schools. Some of them will talk for hours. They'll just talk. It's a great conversation. It's a good time. And then other schools like MDs, they'll send me an email and say, we'd like to invite you to an interview. By the way, don't call and don't email because it slows us down. We'll let you know. So there's a real strange attitude from the MD elitist fraternity, even though I may go to WAMI and I might be an MD, versus the DO that is just, it's like I just called my aunt. She's like, oh, JT. And then we just talk. And it doesn't hurt because they all know me. Everyone at the admissions department at ICOM and PNW, they know who I am. Can't hurt. And I always got useful information from them about how I could be a better candidate and have a better application. So don't be afraid to call them. And then this strange bullet point I put there, exercise. So I didn't exercise much my first few years, and I struggled with depression at times. I think just because of the stress and the workload, you know, the long days and lack of sleep and all that. This semester is busy for me. It's the semester of the paper. And geez, I have to write a lot of papers. And I've made myself take time to hit the gym. I know Zwijak and Henderson love to run. It's good medication. The workouts are just good medication. And my brain is working better this year than it has any other year. So I think I would actually have a better GPA and remember a bit more if I had been working out the whole time. That's a real thing. So anyway, those are all my recommendations, I think. I don't think I have any more recommendations. I don't know what the next slide says. And I guess we can open this to questions. If there's any time, I probably rambled on too long.
No, this was great. Thank you, Josh, so much for speaking. You highlighted on a lot of points that we've emphasized a lot here too, but especially the social competence. That's a big one, but also just being well-rounded and really working on student wellness as a pre-med, because this is a stressful process. So yeah, guys, we have 10 to 15 minutes for any questions. You can throw them in the chat, or you can unmute yourselves, whatever you'd like. Yeah, the floor is yours.
Hey Josh, it's my name is Roman. I frequently see you in the library actually when I'm going there to study. I've always been curious, like, who's that guy? Is he one of the professors? One of the teaching aides? Who is he?
Yeah, I get that.
But I have a little boy. He's 10 months old and a beautiful girlfriend, and it's hard to manage my new family. How do you do it, and what do you suggest for me so that I can succeed and not alienate my family? Because that's something I'm really struggling with.
Yeah, that's good. You don't. And so here's the deal with that. I had the bullet point, and I think I skipped over it. Balance isn't really a thing if you want to excel at, be exceptional at something like this. And so so that is part of the cost that you've got to decide if it's worth it. And just know that there's going to be large chunks of your child's life that you missed because this is what you chose. But you pay a price for everything you don't do. And how heavy would be the regret, and what would the path look like in the future, and what kind of a person does that make you? And here's how I mitigate that a bit, is that I don't miss what opportunities there are, and the birthdays and the anniversaries and dinner with the family. And here's something that you'd appreciate. I'm not taking the family with me when I go to medical school. It's not worth it. So we have grandmas and grandpas, and we have cousins, and we have sports teams, and our lives are here. And if they go with me to Boise or Bozeman or wherever I end up going, they wouldn't see much of me anyways, because I'm going to be studying more than I am now. So now they're in a strange place. They don't have me, and they don't have their support groups. So I'm going to be away from them, and it's going to get worse. So that's what I would say to you is, it's not great. It's going to get worse before it gets better. And you've got to just be real with your partner and real with yourself about the price you're going to pay. And don't pretend that it's something that it isn't. And then just decide if it's worth it. And if it's not, then you do something else. But yeah, I think it's good to be honest about the road that's ahead of you. I'm sure your family may go with you to med school. Mine's kind of a unique situation, but yeah, the cost is high.
All right. I appreciate the advice.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
So I also work as a CNA right now at a nursing home, and I totally related with what you were talking about. It's kind of twofold. So one, like, where did you get your CNA experience, like hospital versus nursing home?
Mm-hmm.
And how did you apply that to your interviews? Like, was there a specific story you told, or did you keep it general?
Yeah. If you want, I'll send you my application to medical school. You can read my experiences and the tone that I took with them, especially after Dr. Wendy Cheek edited them. You can see what that end product looks like. I worked at Apple Cooney Rehab. So I worked in the rehab some, and then I worked in the long-term care side, which was the brutal side of it. And I also did an internship there through Carroll, which was pretty cool because I had already been working there, and I spun it into an internship. Interestingly, that ended up being the hardest time because it was at the beginning of the COVID outbreak, and we had another corona. What's the virus that you get that's been on campus a few times that gives you the shits?
Like Nora?
Noro, yeah. So we had a norovirus outbreak, the whole hall lockdown, and COVID, and I was assigned a single hall by myself. The lunch people wouldn't come in, and the janitors wouldn't come in. So I had to do all the linens, I had to do all the feeding, and I had to do all of the cleanups and keep everyone in their room and keep them from fighting. And that happened several weeks in a row. And one night my shift got extended because people didn't show up for work. And the devil on my shoulder wanted to just light a match and burn the whole mother down. But I successfully didn't bring Noro home to my family, so that's cool. Despite the fact that there was limited PPE, I was having to reuse PPE from room to room while caring for him. Just a nightmare. So as part of the internship, you have to journal about this stuff each week, which I found really annoying on top of the schoolwork and the work. But by the end, I think I did it for 12 weeks was how the hours worked out for me. I had 12 amazing journal entries, and writing my experiences that was probably the most effortless thing, and it turned out to be the best part of my application. So yeah, glad I did it. And I think, as every general should know what it's like in a foxhole, I think every doctor should know what it's like when you're elbows deep as a CNA.
Yeah, I worked at Elkhorn, so the sister facility.
Yep.
So yeah.
You know all about it.
But I'll shoot you an email about your experiences.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Shoot me an email and I'll send you my application.
Thank you.
Josh, why did you choose? Why do you want to do DO over MD? Just curious.
Yes. So so at this point, whammy has become, in the last 9 months, it's become my number one choice because partially the convenience of being in Bozeman, much closer to my family, the price, so it's a lot cheaper, and I mean, it's whammy. It's University of Washington, #3 medical school in the nation, so that doesn't suck. DO, I used to race motocross, and so I need chiropractic treatment occasionally. I know, I'm surprised how many of my classmates think chiropractic treatment is a snake oil. It shocks me because it's totally not. I wouldn't be functional without occasional chiropractic treatment. That's just the way it is. And so I like the spinal manipulation part of being a DO. That's just that. If that didn't exist, I would still be inclined to go DO. I like the approach to medicine. So if you don't know much about it, the approach to medicine is, if you see a DO or shadow a DO, when a patient enters the office, they have a conversation like, how is your sleep? How much water do you drink in a day? What's your stress level like? How's your marriage? And the reason they ask those questions is because that directly affects your health. So instead of, okay, we're just going to give you an opiate or whatever, let's figure out why you're going sideways, and let's try and address that instead of giving you a prescription that has side effects. That is the elevator summary of what a DO is trained to do versus the emphasis of an MD that tends to be a bit more pharmaceutical. Now, it doesn't mean that as an MD, I can't practice that way. And that's ultimately why I've made whammy my number one choice. But the more I'm around doctors, MDs, and DOs, and the more I've talked to admissions departments and professors at med schools and been to med schools and seen what they're like, the DO is the kind of guy you want to have a beer with on Friday night, and the MD is the kind of guy that is on the opposing team baseball team when you're coaching your son's team that annoys the hell out of you. That's not fair. That's not fair. That's an exaggeration, but I made an exaggeration just to kind of get the point across, right? I have a lot of MD friends who are admirable people, and I want to be like them when I grow up someday. Dr. Schultz at St. Pete's, he's a pathologist and an MD, and I have a lot of respect for that guy. So I just exaggerated that story just to kind of make a point that the DO is the kind of guy that you have over for a card game at your house, I would say.
Sweet, thanks.
Yeah.
We got time for probably one or two more questions. So if you guys have any, go for it. Josh, I'm just personally wondering, because you've been through a lot of through a lot of experiences, a lot of stressful times, and obviously right now a lot of people are having added stresses in their lives, just the pandemic and a lot of the things that are going on in society right now, but also in our personal lives too. And so, what are just some I guess this is a reverb from last week's wellness meeting, but what are some of your tips of just how you handle the stress of right now, and also the uncertainty of what's going to come in your future?
Yeah, the aiming for a star, something that I'm striving to become, and running from something that I know I could be, that lazy drunkard, and heading towards the idealized self is mostly what takes care of that stress. The medication or the workouts. So there's been great clinical research in Finland that Dr. Rhonda Patrick, I don't know if you know who she is, I learned about her on the Joe Rogan podcast. She's a research microbiologist and she collects cool stuff on longevity and health and stress management. And they've done good studies on saunas, dry sauna use, that sauna use has a significant p-value in relation to depression. It mimics cardiovascular exercise, and it causes the proteins to unfold and then refold, which I think clears stuff that's damaged. But then it also dilates your blood vessels. And anyway, I think the sauna use and workouts have been super key for me, because spring semester last year was murder. Like, I got a 4.0, but it was awful. Trapped in my room for 16 hours a day with my kids banging on my door, distracting me. It was almost murder. But this is fine now. And it's fine because I'm hitting the gym. I think it made a big difference. So don't neglect your health.
Great. Yes. Thank you. If you guys have any more questions, I'm sure Josh would be welcome for you guys to send him an email that maybe you could type in the chat below if it wasn't already on a slide.
It might not have been, but yeah, because it's a weird one. It's I should have done that for Ashley. Let's see. It's JA.Turner@carroll.edu. So.
Oh, great. That's great. No, we really appreciate you being on here. That's a really inspirational story.
Thanks.
We really appreciate you giving us those final words, especially at the eve of our last meeting. So appreciate it, Josh.
Yeah, happy to be here. Good luck, everyone. One thing I forgot to mention. I don't know if you know this. You probably do. You're guaranteed an interview with PNWU if you have a better than 3.5 GPA. It reduces your chance of having to take a gap year.
Do you know if that's a cumulative GPA or a science GPA or any of that?
Cumulative.
Okay.
It's a cumulative GPA. Yeah. That they signed that agreement 2 years ago.
Oh, that's great to know. Okay, great. Well, we appreciate it, Josh.
All right. Yep. Thanks, everybody.
Take care. Okay, with that, guys, we're just gonna end the meeting with a few messages from each of our club officials. Joey is doing a performance right now. He was all suited up earlier when he came in prior to you guys entering. So I'll read his message of advice, but here's just one message from each of us just to sort of wrap things up.
Yeah, you guys have made it this far, and you really should be proud of yourself. This has been an incredibly difficult semester, and I know the attrition rate for pre-med students is high. It's going to be even higher this semester. There's going to be more freshmen who drop out. There's going to be more sophomores who decide this just isn't worth it. There's going to be more juniors who decide, you know what, I've had enough. I'm going to become a chemist. I'm going to become a wildlife biologist. I'm giving up on medicine. So those of you that remain, you're going through a crucible, and it's going to make you better. These trying times and difficult semesters affirm to you that this is what you're meant to be doing. You can't stop now. You got to keep the momentum. So as you're entering these tests, show these professors how smart you are, how much you know. Look at it like a game, a competition to see, hey, I can live up to your expectations. Let's play.
Yeah, to add to that, don't stop, as Roman said. It's the final stretch of the semester. Keep working hard, and it'll pay off. And I'm speaking for myself, but also all the other officers when I say we look forward to seeing you all next semester.
So basically, keep up the good work the last few weeks of the semester. Don't let 2 weeks of crunch work ruin all the good work that you've had. So just make sure you finish strong. Enjoy your long winter break. I know this winter break's gonna be super nice because it's twice as long as we're used to. So make sure you get outside, explore, relax, stay safe with COVID, and we'll see you next semester.
Joey wrote to you guys, and I'm sure you'd want to expound on this, but he just wrote, You all worked hard all semester, but it's time to turn it up and show your professors what a pre-med can do. Wishing you all luck and health. Let's kick some butt and get out of here. Oh, that's great. I just read that for the first time. That's funny. Like anything in my life, I tend to go the extra step, even if it's a small little end quote. So I don't know if you guys have heard the starfish story before. I got some, yeah, I don't know, but other officials never heard this, I guess. I don't know. I heard this when I was little. I'm going to tell it really quickly. It doesn't have a lot of obscenities in it, like the stories that I'd like to tell. But oh well, I'll give it a shot anyway. So the starfish story, in a gist, and this is an adaptation, a shorter one. It's about, so there's like a man who was walking along a beach, and he noticed this little boy who was picking up and throwing things into the ocean. And he approached the boy and he said, "Young man, what are you doing?" And the boy replied, "Throwing starfish back into the ocean because the surf is up and the tide is going out. And so if he didn't throw them back, they'll die." And the man laughed to himself and he said, "Don't you realize there are miles and miles of beach and hundreds of starfish? You can't make a difference in doing so." And after listening politely, this oddly mature little boy bent down and picked up another starfish and threw it into the surf. And then smiling at the man, he said, "I made a difference to that one." And that's the quote, or that's the story I kind of want to leave you guys with. When I was little, even before I knew I wanted to do medicine, even just a community service in Boy Scouts or whatever, I wanted to save everyone and everything and make the world right. I was ambitious. And I think more so today than ever, really society's immense amount of problems are prevalent. We cannot fix everything, but every single day we can wake up and ask, how can I make a difference? What can I do? And that's what I challenge you guys to do. As much as I want you guys to enjoy the break and everything, every morning you wake up, ask yourself, what one difference can you make? It's the smallest thing. And sometimes it takes the smallest little thing that may seem insubstantial to you guys, but makes all the difference in someone else's lives. The challenge, or the things you do in your life have reverb. It's not just your life they impact, it's many others as well. So that's what I'll leave you guys with. And Michael will end with our final parting message.
Yeah, it's been a great semester, guys, and we're always really happy to see you all attend these meetings and more in the future. And this quote adapted from a quote I found: "The pursuit of greatness is never ending. Be uncommon amongst uncommon. That's the pre-medical way." And with that, thank you guys so much for an amazing semester. Keep pushing hard and working hard, and it's going to pay off.
Good luck, everybody, on your finals. You'll do great. Sanitize your laptop. Stay healthy. Happy holidays.